recently, there's been a massive uptick in the number of policies that private companies are adopting to try to green their supply chains. And this is really largely due to increased public pressure that they've been receiving from civil society and actors like Greenpeace, who have been getting increasing levels of detail about the activities within these supply chains, which we can now better monitor through remote sensing. And so as a result of this, there's been a massive proliferation of those policies. So my interest to study this really derives from the fact that it's happening at such a large scale and has a lot of potential to improve sustainability on the ground, but we really don't know very much about it. And so I've been really actively involved in trying to measure the impacts of these policies and better inform people about what works and what doesn't work. We really don't know very much about whether or not these policies are working. There have been about 30 published papers on this topic that are very rigorous across multiple forest risk commodities, including soybeans, oil palm, coffee, cocoa, and beef cattle. But these are studies all over the world in limited regions, and the results vary very widely. What I can say so far is that it seems that about half of these studies have found that policies can bring additional conservation and livelihood benefits to farmers. But in the other half of the cases, there's either no effect or sometimes negative effects. One of the remaining issues that's quite important is that because supply chain actors can't control or necessarily reach indirect suppliers in the supply chains or reach all of the farmers in a production region, the supply chain policies run the risk of creating a twin track marketplace whereby certain farms become more sustainable, but the farms that are not included in these supply chains actually become less sustainable or continue with their unsustainable practices, or at worst, actually end up having negative impacts on their livelihoods because they have reduced market access. So how do you actually affect the behavior of all of these farms and at the same time really take care to protect their livelihoods? You really cannot do that without the involvement of local governments. So what's missing here is strengthening of the governance systems in the production regions. And that's why multinational firms now realize they have to be activists in actually encouraging governments in the production regions to improve their territorial governance, to both provide capacity building and positive incentives for farmers to become more sustainable. The other key point is that importing regions can play an important role. When the EU and Switzerland adopt more rigorous import policies, that can drive greater uptake of sustainability policies among supply chain actors and help fill out that gap that I talked about where not enough of the market is covered by these supply chain firms with better sustainability policies.